I saw my daughter-in-law Jessica throwing my granddaughter Lily's baby blanket into the trash. I did not think twice. I ran to the dumpster and rescued it before it was too late. Thinking of Lily, I picked up that blanket and took it straight to my house. When I spread it out on the bed, my fingers touched something strange. There was something hard sewn inside the fabric, hidden between the layers of cotton. Curiosity invaded me like a chill. I took some scissors from the drawer. My hands were trembling as I opened the seam carefully, ripping thread by thread. And when I saw what was hidden inside, I was completely in shock. I never imagined that something so small, so silent, could contain such horror. Because what I found was not just an object. It was the proof of a lie that had lasted for years. It was the truth about my son's death. It was the darkest secret my daughter-in-law had kept. And when I understood what it really meant, I knew my life would never be the same. Before continuing, please subscribe to the channel Elderly Stories and tell me where you are watching this story from. Because what I'm going to tell you is something that I still struggle to believe is real. My name is Martha, and I am 69 years old. I have lived alone in this house for 3 years, since the day I lost my only son. Matthew was barely 32 years old when he died. It was in September, on a Tuesday afternoon. I received the call from Jessica, crying, screaming, telling me that Matthew had had an accident, that he had fallen down the stairs of his house, that he hit his head, that he was not responding. I arrived at the hospital in 15 minutes. I drove like a crazy woman. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. When I entered the emergency room, Jessica was sitting in a chair with her face in her hands. She was wearing a pearl gray dress. She had blood stains on her sleeves. She saw me and ran towards me. She hugged me. She sobbed against my shoulder. I just wanted to see my son. I needed to see him. A doctor came out. He looked at us with that expression that all doctors have when they are going to give bad news, and he said the words that destroyed my world. Matthew had died. Severe head trauma. They could not do anything. I screamed. I cried. I collapsed on the cold hospital floor. Jessica held me. She told me everything would be okay, that Matthew would have wanted us to be strong, but nothing was okay. Nothing would ever be okay again. My husband had died 15 years ago from a heart attack, and now my son was gone too. Matthew was everything I had left. He was a doctor, brilliant, dedicated. He worked long hours at the hospital saving lives. He had married Jessica 2 years before his death. She was a nurse too. They met at work. He introduced her to me one Sunday afternoon. I remember she was wearing a cream-colored dress, and her smile was perfect. Too perfect. But Matthew was in love. His eyes shone when he looked at her. He told me she was the woman of his life, that he wanted to start a family with her, and I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe my son had found happiness. A year after the wedding, Jessica got pregnant. Matthew was euphoric. He called me every day to tell me how the baby was growing. They bought a new house. They painted the girl's room a soft pink. Matthew assembled the crib himself. I remember seeing him so happy, so full of hope. And when Lily was born, I felt life gave me a gift, a second chance to love, to care. My granddaughter was beautiful, small, delicate. With Matthew's dark eyes, I knitted that mint green blanket with my own hands. It took me weeks to finish it. Every stitch was a piece of my love for her. Matthew adored it. He said it was magical, that every time he wrapped Lily in it, the girl stopped crying. He kept that blanket like a treasure. But after the accident, everything changed. Jessica distanced herself. At first, I understood. She was also grieving. She had also lost her husband. She needed time, space. But months passed, and she brought Lily to me less and less. She always had excuses. That the girl was sick. That she had a lot of work. That she needed to reorganize her life. I did not want to pressure her. I did not want to be that meddling mother-in-law. So I waited. I called. I asked if I could visit my granddaughter. Sometimes she said yes, other times she simply did not answer. And when she did let me see Lily, I noticed something strange. Jessica was different, colder, more distant. Her look no longer had that feigned warmth from before. There was something calculating in her eyes, something that made me nervous, but I thought it was the pain, that Matthew's death had changed her, just like it had changed me. I tried to be understanding. I tried to give her space. Until that October afternoon, 3 years after Matthew's death, I had bought some toys for Lily. I wanted to surprise her. I passed near Jessica's house to leave them in the mailbox. I did not want to bother. I just wanted my granddaughter to know her grandma was thinking of her. I parked my car across the street. And then I saw her. Jessica was coming out of the garage with trash bags, several black bags. She dragged them forcefully towards the dumpster. And in one of those bags, I saw something that made my heart stop. Lily's blanket, that mint green blanket I had knitted with so much love. It was crumpled, half sticking out of the bag. Jessica pushed it inside the dumpster with a strange violence, as if she hated that blanket, as if she wanted to destroy it. I stood paralyzed. Why was she throwing away something so special? Why get rid of a memory of Matthew? I did not understand. Jessica closed the lid of the dumpster and went back into the house. I waited a few minutes. My breathing was agitated. I felt a mixture of rage and sadness. When I was sure she would not come out, I got out of the car. I walked to the dumpster. I opened it. I searched through the bags until I found it. And there it was, dirty, crumpled, smelling of expensive perfume and oblivion. I took it out carefully, I held it against my chest, and I took it home without looking back. I arrived at my house trembling. I locked the door. I went straight to my bedroom. I needed to be alone with that blanket. I needed to understand why Jessica had thrown it away like that, as if it were worthless trash. I spread it on my bed carefully. I smoothed it with my hands. It was dirty, but intact. The lace edges were still firm. The mint green color looked opaque under the lamplight. I ran my fingers over the entire surface. I felt every texture, every stitch I had made myself years ago. And then I felt it, right in the center of the blanket. A hard lump, rectangular, hidden between the layers of fabric. It was not part of the stuffing. It was something else, something someone had put there on purpose. My heart began to beat faster. My hands started sweating. What was this? Why was there something hidden inside my granddaughter's blanket? I turned the blanket over. I looked for an opening, some different stitching, and I found it. On the bottom edge, almost invisible, was a line of perfect stitches, made with thread of the same color as the fabric. Someone had opened the blanket, put something inside, and sewed it back up with such care that it was almost impossible to notice. I went to my nightstand. I took out my sewing scissors, the same ones I had used to knit that blanket years ago. My hands were trembling so much I could barely hold them. I took a deep breath. I looked for the start of the seam, and I started to cut. Slowly, thread by thread. Every snip sounded too loud in the silence of my room. I felt like I was opening something forbidden, something I should not touch. But I could not stop now. I cut the last threads. The opening was exposed. I put my fingers inside. I felt something cold, metallic. I took it out carefully, and when I had it in my hands, the air escaped my lungs. It was a cell phone, small, black, turned off, old by the model, maybe from 4 or 5 years ago. I held it as if it were a bomb about to explode. Questions flooded my mind like an overflowing river. Why had Jessica hidden a phone in Lily's blanket? Since when was it there? Why had she sewn it with such care? And why now, after 3 years, had she decided to throw it all away? I looked in my dresser drawer. I had an old charger I kept just in case. I plugged it into the wall. I plugged in the phone. And I waited. The seconds felt like hours. My breathing was heavy. My hands would not stop shaking. The screen flickered. A dim light appeared in the corner. It was charging. I kept waiting. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, until finally the screen lit up completely. It had no password, no security code. It opened straight to the main menu, as if someone had wanted it to be easy to access, or as if they never imagined anyone else would find it. My fingers trembled over the screen. There were several apps, messages, gallery, contacts, notes. I started with the gallery. I touched the icon, and what I saw left me frozen. There were photos, many photos. The first one was of Jessica. She was at an elegant restaurant. She was smiling, but she was not alone. There was a man beside her, young, handsome. He had his arm around her shoulders. He was kissing her on the cheek. That photo had a date. It had been taken 4 years ago, when Matthew was still alive, when Jessica was still married to my son. I felt something break inside me. I kept scrolling, more photos. Jessica with that same man at the beach, in a hotel, in a car, hugging, kissing. All the photos were from 4 years ago. Jessica was having an affair. She was cheating on Matthew, and he never knew. He never suspected anything. Tears began to fall down my cheeks. My son had loved that woman. He had trusted her, and she had betrayed him, but that was not all. I kept checking. There were videos, several video files saved in a separate folder. I touched the first one. The screen went black, and then the image appeared. It was a home recording. The camera was fixed, as if propped on some furniture. A living room was visible, the living room of Jessica and Matthew's house. I recognized the gray sofa, the coffee table, the painting on the wall, and then they appeared. Jessica and that same man. They entered laughing. She was wearing a lavender dress. He grabbed her by the waist. He kissed her. They let themselves fall onto the sofa. The scene was clear, too clear. I stopped the video. I could not keep watching. I felt sick, but I needed to know more. I needed to understand what was happening. I opened the messaging app. There were long conversations between Jessica and a contact saved only as H. I started reading. The messages were from 4 years ago. At first, they were romantic. Jessica told him how much she loved him, how much she missed him, that she could not stand being away from him, that she hated having to pretend with Matthew, that name, Matthew, my son. She spoke of him as if he were a nuisance, as if he were an obstacle in her path. The messages continued. They became darker, more desperate. Jessica wrote to that man that she wanted to be with him, that she wanted a life together, but that Matthew would not accept a divorce, that he was too traditional, that he would never let her go. And then a message appeared that broke my soul. There has to be another way. I cannot go on like this. I need him to disappear. My hands dropped the phone. It fell on the bed. My breathing stopped. I read that message over and over again. I need him to disappear. It could not be true. I could not be reading what I thought I was reading. I picked up the phone again. I kept scrolling down the conversation. The man, H, replied, "Don't say crazy things. Just wait. We will find a way." But Jessica insisted. Message after message, more desperate every time. "I do not want to wait anymore. I want to be with you now. Matthew is the problem. If he were not here, we would be free." And then, a few days later, another message. This one even more chilling. "I talked to someone who can help us. I just need you to trust me." The man replied, worried. "What did you do? Who did you talk to?" But Jessica gave no details. She just said that soon everything would be resolved, that soon they would be free, that soon they could be together without hiding. The messages ended abruptly a week before Matthew's death. There were no more conversations after that date, as if both had stopped using that phone, as if they had wanted to erase any trace. I got out of bed. I paced the room trying to process what I had just discovered. Jessica had planned something. She had talked about making Matthew disappear, and a week later, my son was dead. Had it really been an accident? Or had it been something else? The doctor's words resonated in my mind. Severe head trauma, fall down the stairs. But now everything made a different sense. A horrible sense. I picked up the phone again. I looked in the notes. There was only one entry, written 2 days before Matthew's death. It said, Tuesday, 3 p.m. He will be alone. Everything has to look natural. An accident. No one can suspect. My legs failed me. I sat on the bed. Tears ran uncontrollably down my face. My son had not died in an accident. My son had been murdered. And Jessica, the woman he had trusted, the mother of his daughter, had been part of it all. I could not sleep that night. I sat on my bed with the phone in my hands, reading and rereading those messages. Every word was a stab. Every sentence confirmed what my heart already knew, but my mind refused to accept. Matthew had not died in an accident. My son had been murdered, and the woman who swore to love him until death had planned everything. She had orchestrated his death as if it were something as simple as changing houses or jobs. The tears no longer came out. Only a deep void remained in my chest, a black hole that swallowed everything. My memories of Jessica, the image I had of her, everything had crumbled in a matter of hours. When the sun began to rise, I made a decision. I could not stay silent. I could not let Jessica stay free. Walking through the world as if she had done nothing, raising Lily with those blood-stained hands, the same hands that had planned to kill my son. But I needed help. I needed someone to trust, someone who would not think I was crazy, someone who would believe me. I thought about the police, but how was I going to show up with a phone I had taken out of the trash? How was I going to explain that I found it sewn into a blanket? I needed more than that. I needed to understand the whole story. I needed to know who that man was, that H who appeared in the messages, and I needed to know if they really had done what they planned. I decided to call Brenda, my neighbor of a lifetime, a 65-year-old woman who had been my confidant since my husband died. She knew how to listen. She knew how to keep secrets. And above all, she knew me well enough to know I would not invent something like this. I dialed her number. She answered on the third ring. Her voice sounded sleepy. "Martha, are you okay? It is 6 a.m. I took a deep breath. "Brenda, I need you to come to my house. Now. It is urgent." There was a silence. Then I heard movement. "I am on my way." She hung up. 15 minutes later, Brenda was knocking on my door. I opened. She looked at me with concern. Her hair was pulled back in a quick ponytail. She was wearing a mustard-colored sweater over her pajamas. "What happened? You look terrible." I stepped aside to let her in. I closed the door. I took her to my room. I showed her the blanket spread on the bed, the phone still connected to the charger, and I started telling her everything. I told her how I saw Jessica throwing the blanket away, how I rescued it, how I found the hidden phone, and what I had discovered in it. Brenda listened to me in silence. Her face went from surprise to horror. When I finished speaking, she took the phone. She checked the photos, the videos, the messages, the note, everything. Her hands were trembling too. When she looked up at me, there were tears in her eyes. "My God, Martha, this is evidence of a murder." I nodded. "I know. But I cannot just go to the police. I need more proof. I need to know who that man is. I need to understand everything before taking the next step." Brenda sat on the bed. She thought for a moment. What if we look on Jessica's social media? Maybe that man appears in her contacts. It was a good idea. I took out my laptop. I opened Facebook. I searched for Jessica's profile. It was not blocked. I could see everything. Her photos, her posts, her friends. I started checking her contact list. There were hundreds of names, too many to check one by one. Brenda leaned over my shoulder. "Look for men whose name starts with H. That was the contact in the phone, right?" I nodded. I filtered the search. Several names appeared. Hector, Henry, Hugo, Harrison, Harold. I started opening every profile. I was looking for the face of the man in the photos, the one who was with Jessica in those compromising images. I checked Hector. It was not him. Henry. It was not him. Harrison was too old. Harold did not match. And then I opened Henry Walker's profile, and there he was. The same face, the same dark eyes, the same smile. It was him. The man in the photos. The man with whom Jessica had planned to get rid of my son. It is him, I whispered. Brenda looked at the screen. Are you sure? I went back to the phone. I compared the photos. There was no doubt. It was the same man. I went back to his Facebook profile. I started investigating. Henry Walker, 38 years old. He lived in the same city as us. He worked at a construction company. I checked his public photos. There were several from years ago. In some, he appeared alone. In others, with friends. But there was no recent photo with Jessica, as if they had erased any trace of their relationship, as if they had never been together. We have to find him, I said. Brenda nodded. But be careful, Martha. If this man was involved in Matthew's death, he could be dangerous. I knew, but I did not care. I needed answers. I needed justice for my son. I looked for more information about Henry on the internet. I found his LinkedIn profile. He worked as a site supervisor. He had contacts with several companies in the area. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He was a normal man, with a normal life, except he had helped plan a murder. Brenda suggested something I had not considered. What if we go to Jessica's house? Maybe we can find more evidence, documents, emails, something that connects everything. It was risky, but it made sense. If Jessica had hidden that phone in Lily's blanket, maybe she had more things hidden. We cannot just walk in like that, I said. We need an excuse. Brenda thought for a moment. What if you tell her you want to see Lily, that you miss your granddaughter? While you distract her, I can check discreetly. It was not a perfect plan, but it was the only thing we had. We decided to try it that same afternoon. I sent a message to Jessica. Hi, Jessica. I know I have been insistent lately, but I miss Lily a lot. Can I come over to see her this afternoon? Just for a while. 20 minutes passed before she replied. Hi, Martha. Today is not a good day. Lily is a little irritable. Maybe another day. I gritted my teeth. It was always the same. She always had excuses, but this time I was not going to accept a no. Please, Jessica. It will only be a few minutes. I bought her a gift. I want to give it to her in person. Another silence. Then her answer. Okay, but only half an hour. I have things to do. It was all I needed. Brenda and I got ready. She would stay in the car at first. She would wait for my signal. If I managed to distract Jessica enough, Brenda would enter with some excuse. We would look for anything that could serve as additional evidence. At 3 p.m, we arrived at Jessica's house. It was a 2-story house, white paint, well-kept garden, the same house where Matthew had died, where he supposedly had fallen down the stairs, where his life had ended. I rang the doorbell. My heart was beating so fast I thought it would burst out of my chest. I heard footsteps. The door opened, and there was Jessica. She was wearing black pants and a salmon-colored blouse. Her hair was perfectly combed, her makeup flawless, as always. Hi, Martha, she said with a cold smile. Come in. I entered the house. The smell of lavender filled the air. Everything was clean, tidy, perfect, too perfect, as if nothing bad had ever happened between those walls. Where is Lily? I asked. Upstairs, in her room. I will call her. Jessica went up the stairs, the same stairs where Matthew had supposedly fallen. I looked at every step. I looked for some sign, some mark, but there was nothing. Jessica came down with Lily in her arms. My granddaughter had grown so much. She was 3 years old already. Her dark hair fell in soft curls over her shoulders. Her eyes were identical to Matthew's. Seeing her broke my heart and filled me with love at the same time. Hi, Grandma, Lily said with her sweet little voice. She extended her little arms towards me. I took her. I hugged her tight. She smelled of baby shampoo and innocence. She was the only pure thing left of my son, the only good thing that had survived all this darkness. "I missed you so much, my love," I whispered to her. She smiled. She showed me a doll she had in her hand, a brown teddy bear. She started telling me a story about it. I listened to her while watching Jessica out of the corner of my eye. Jessica was standing by the window. She was looking at her phone. She seemed distracted, nervous, as if she were waiting for something or someone. I seized the moment. I took out my cell phone. I sent a quick message to Brenda. "Enter now." A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. Jessica looked up, surprised. "Are you expecting someone?" I asked her with the most casual voice I could manage. She shook her head. She frowned. She went to the door. She opened it. Brenda was there, with a friendly smile. "Hi, sorry for the interruption. I am Brenda, Martha's neighbor. I came with her, but I forgot a bag in the car. Can I come in to use the bathroom? It is urgent." Jessica hesitated. She looked at Brenda. Then she looked at me. I nodded as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "Sure," said Jessica finally. "Down the hall, first door on the left." Brenda entered. She gave me a quick glance. I understood the message. She would look for what she could while I kept Jessica distracted. I needed time. I started talking. I asked Jessica about work, about how she was handling things, about if she needed help with Lily. Jessica answered with short sentences, cutting. She kept looking at her phone. She was restless. I kept talking. I told her I had found some old photos of Matthew, that I would like to show them to Lily when she was older, so she could know her dad. At the mention of Matthew, Jessica tensed up. "Yes, sure, when she is older." Her voice sounded different, harder. She looked towards the hallway. "Your friend is taking a long time." "Maybe she does not feel well," I improvised. "You know, at our age, everything takes longer." Jessica did not seem convinced. She stood up. "I am going to see if she is okay." My heart raced. I needed to stop her. "Wait, Jessica, there is something I want to ask you." She stopped. She looked at me. "What is it?" I took a deep breath. I needed to make this credible. "Lily's blanket, the one I knitted for her. I have not seen it lately. Do you still use it?" Her face changed. For a second, I saw panic in her eyes. Then she composed herself. "The blanket. Yes, sure. It is in the washing machine. It got dirty." She was lying. I knew she was lying, but I could not tell her. Not yet. "Oh, good. I am glad you still have it." Matthew loved it so much. I mentioned my son again on purpose. I wanted to see her reaction. Jessica pursed her lips. Yes, Matthew loved many things. There was something in her tone, something bitter, something resentful. Before she could answer, Brenda appeared in the hallway. "Sorry for the delay. I feel better now." Jessica looked at her with distrust. "Good." Brenda walked towards me. She touched my shoulder gently. It was the signal. She had found something. We needed to go. "Well, Jessica, we won't bother you anymore. Thanks for letting us see Lily." I stood up. I kissed my granddaughter's forehead. "I love you, little one. Grandma will be back soon." Lily hugged me. "Bye, Grandma." Jessica walked us to the door. When we left, she closed it quickly, almost violently. Brenda and I walked to the car in silence. We got in. I closed the door. "What did you find?" Brenda put her hand in her purse. She took out a manila envelope. It was in her room, in the closet, hidden under some boxes. I opened the envelope. Inside were documents. Matthew's life insurance papers. My son had a policy of $500,000, and the beneficiary was Jessica. The entire amount had been collected 3 months after his death. There were also bank statements, large transfers, one of $200,000 to an account in the name of Henry Walker. "My God," I whispered. "She paid him. She paid him to help her kill Matthew." Brenda nodded. "There is more." She took out another paper. It was a copy of a birth certificate. Lily's. But there was something strange. The mother's name was not Jessica. It said Sarah Miller. "Who is Sarah Miller?" I asked. Brenda shook her head. "I do not know. But according to this document, she is Lily's biological mother, not Jessica." The world stopped. I did not understand anything. Lily was not Jessica's daughter? But Jessica was pregnant. I saw her. We all saw her. Brenda pointed to the date on the certificate. "Look at Lily's birth date. It does not match what Jessica told us. There is a difference of 2 months. I checked the certificate. Brenda was right. According to that document, Lily had been born 2 months before Jessica had announced. This makes no sense. Did Jessica fake a pregnancy? Did she steal a baby? "I do not know," said Brenda. "But we need to find Sarah Miller. She is the key to all this." I went back home with Brenda. We sat in the living room. We spread all the documents on the table. The phone, the photos, the messages, the insurance papers, the birth certificate. Everything was starting to make sense. Jessica had planned Matthew's murder to keep the insurance money. She had used Henry to do it. She had paid him with part of the money. But there was also another story. The story of Sarah Miller and Lily. "We need to look for information about Sarah," I said. I opened my laptop. I searched for her name on the internet. Sarah Miller. Several profiles appeared, but none seemed to match. I added the city to the search, and then I found something. A note from a local newspaper from 4 years ago. The headline said, "Young Mother Missing. Family asks for help locating Sarah Miller." There was a photo, a 23-year-old girl, long hair, sad eyes. According to the article, she had disappeared, leaving her 2-month-old baby. "Lily," I whispered. Sarah disappeared and left Lily. Brenda read the article over my shoulder. Or maybe she did not leave her. Maybe Jessica made her disappear. The idea froze my blood. "Do you think Jessica killed Sarah too?" "I do not know, but think about it. Jessica needed a baby to complete her farce of a perfect family with Matthew. Maybe she met Sarah. Maybe she took advantage of her, and when she no longer needed her, she got rid of her." It was a horrible theory, but it made sense. I searched for more information about Sarah's disappearance. I found another article, more recent, from 6 months ago. Remains of missing young woman found, identified as Sarah Miller. They had found her body in an abandoned lot on the outskirts of the city. The investigation was closed. Cause of death: head trauma. Same cause as Matthew. It could not be a coincidence. "Jessica killed her," I said with a trembling voice. "She killed Sarah to keep Lily, and then she killed Matthew to keep the money." Brenda took my hand. "Martha, this is too big. We need to go to the police. Now." She was right. We could not keep investigating alone anymore. This was evidence of 2 murders, maybe more. We needed professional help. I took my phone. I looked for the local police station number. I dialed. A male voice answered. "Central Precinct. How can I help you?" I took a deep breath. "I need to report a murder. 2 murders. And I have evidence." They gave me an appointment for the next day. A detective named Davis would handle the case. They asked me to bring all the evidence I had. That night, I did not sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, thinking about everything I had discovered, about Jessica's lies, about my son's death, about Sarah Miller, about Lily. My granddaughter was not really my blood granddaughter, but that did not matter. She was Matthew's daughter in his heart. He had loved her as his own. He had taken care of her. And now that girl was in the hands of a murderer, in the hands of the woman who had killed her real mother and her adoptive father. I could not allow Jessica to stay with her. I had to get Lily out of that house. I had to protect her. But first, I needed the police to believe my story. I needed them to investigate, to arrest Jessica, to serve justice. At 9 in the morning, Brenda and I arrived at the station. It was a gray building, cold. It smelled of old coffee and paper. A receptionist received us. We told her we had an appointment with Detective Davis. She made us wait in a small room. 15 minutes later, a man of about 45 appeared. Tall, short hair with gray at the temples, piercing eyes. He was wearing a beige shirt and dark pants. "Mrs. Martha." I nodded. "I am Detective Davis. Come in, please." He took us to his office, a room full of filing cabinets and folders. There were photos on the walls, solved cases, I assumed. We sat in front of his desk. He settled in his chair. He took out a notebook. "Tell me everything from the beginning." I took a deep breath, and I started talking. I told him about Matthew's death, about how Jessica had said it was an accident, about the blanket I saw in the trash, about the hidden phone, the photos, the messages, the videos, the note about the plan. I showed him everything: the phone, the insurance documents, the bank transfers to Henry Walker, Lily's birth certificate with Sarah Miller's name, the articles about the disappearance and discovery of Sarah's body. Detective Davis listened in silence. He took notes. He reviewed every document carefully. He looked at the photos on the phone. He read the messages. His expression was serious, focused. When I finished speaking, he leaned back in his chair. "This is serious," he said finally. "Very serious. If what you are telling me is true, we are talking about 2 premeditated homicides, possibly 3 if we count the girl's biological father." I froze. The biological father. If Lily is not Jessica's daughter, she had to have a father, someone who was with Sarah Miller. "Do you know anything about him?" I shook my head. I did not find anything about that. The detective wrote something down. "I will investigate, but first I need to verify this evidence." "What are you going to do?" I asked. "I am going to reopen the case of your son's death. I'm going to request an exhumation for a second autopsy, and I am going to investigate Sarah Miller's death thoroughly. I am also going to interrogate Henry Walker." I felt an enormous relief. Finally, someone believed me. Someone was going to do something. "And Jessica? Are you going to arrest her?" The detective shook his head. "Not yet. I need more evidence before issuing an arrest warrant. I do not want her to run away if she suspects we are investigating her." It made sense, but it frustrated me. "And in the meantime?" "Lily is still with her." The detective looked at me with compassion. "I understand your concern, but legally Jessica is the girl's guardian. I cannot take her away without a court order, and for that I need solid proof." "Is the phone not enough?" The detective sighed. "It is important evidence, but a good lawyer could argue it was planted, that we do not know for sure where it came from. I need more. I need testimonies, forensic evidence, clear connections." I felt powerless. "How long will all this take?" Brenda asked. The detective shrugged. "It depends. If I find what I am looking for, maybe a couple of weeks. If not, it could take months." I did not have months. I could not leave Lily with Jessica that long. "There is something else," I said. "Jessica was nervous yesterday. She looked at her phone constantly, as if she were waiting for something or planning something." The detective noted that too. "Do you have any idea what it could be?" I denied. "No, but it gave me a bad feeling." "Okay, I am going to put discreet surveillance on her house. If she tries anything, we will know." That calmed me a little. At least they would be watching her. At least they would know if she tried to flee or hurt Lily. We said goodbye to the detective. He gave us his personal number. "Call me if you notice anything strange. Anything. It does not matter what time it is." I nodded. Brenda and I left the station. The sun was high. It was hot, but I felt cold inside. "And now what do we do?" asked Brenda. "Wait," I said bitterly. "Wait and pray they find enough to arrest her." The following days were torture. Every hour seemed eternal. I could not stop thinking about Lily, about if she was okay, about if Jessica suspected anything, about if she would try to escape. Detective Davis called me every 2 days to give me updates. He had interrogated Henry Walker. At first, he denied everything. He said he barely knew Jessica, that they were just acquaintances from work. But when they showed him the photos and messages from the phone, he broke down. He confessed to the affair. He admitted that Jessica had talked to him about getting rid of Matthew, but he swore he never agreed, that he told her she was crazy, that he did not want to be part of that. However, the bank transfers said otherwise. The detective pressured him. He showed him the statements. The $200,000 Jessica had sent him 3 months after Matthew's death. Henry could not explain it. He said it was a loan, that Jessica had given it to him to start a business, but he had no document to prove it. "I am holding him for 24 hours, the detective told me. "I hope he confesses. If not, I will have to let him go. I do not have enough to keep him detained." That night, Henry asked for a lawyer, and he stopped talking. The detective had to release him. But the investigation continued. They exhumed Matthew's body. The second autopsy revealed something the first one had overlooked. There were marks of struggle on his wrists, bruises indicating someone had held him. It had not been an accidental fall. "It was murder," confirmed the detective. "Your son was held down and pushed down those stairs." Tears rolled down my cheeks. Knowing the truth was painful, but it was also necessary. Matthew deserved justice. They also investigated Sarah Miller's death more thoroughly. They found that the lot where they found her body belonged to a company where Henry Walker had worked as a supervisor. The connection was clear. Henry had access to that place. He could have taken the body there, buried it without anyone suspecting. Also, they checked Lily's adoption records. There were none. Legally, Lily was still registered as Jessica and Matthew's biological daughter. But the original birth certificate said otherwise. Someone had forged documents. Someone had erased Sarah's trace. "We are building the case," the detective told me. "Little by little, every piece fits. Soon we will have enough to arrest her." Another week passed, a week of anguish, of fear, of sleepless nights. And then, one early morning, my phone rang. It was Detective Davis. His voice sounded urgent. "Mrs. Martha, I need you to come to the station. Now. It is about Jessica." My heart stopped. "What happened?" There was a silence. "She tried to flee. We intercepted her at the airport. She had tickets for her and Lily. They were going to leave the country." I got dressed in 5 minutes. Brenda came with me. We arrived at the station. The detective was waiting for us. He took us to an observation room. On the other side of a glass, I saw Jessica. She was sitting in a chair, handcuffed. Her face was no longer perfect. Her makeup was smeared, her hair messy. "We arrested her 2 hours ago," explained the detective. "When she tried to pass security at the airport, our alert system was activated. She had fake passports for her and the girl, and $500,000 in cash divided into several suitcases." "Where is Lily?" I asked with desperation. "She is with social services. She is okay. Scared, but okay. They are going to need you to go identify yourself as her grandmother to see if she can stay with you temporarily while we resolve all this." I could not believe what I was hearing. Lily was safe, away from Jessica, and I could have her with me, protect her as I should have done from the beginning. "I want to see her, now." The detective nodded. "Of course. But first I need you to see this." He showed me a recording of the interrogation room. Jessica was sitting across from another detective. She had her arms crossed, her jaw tense. "I have nothing to say. I want a lawyer." The detective questioning her did not flinch. "He is on his way, but in the meantime, why don't you explain to me why you were trying to flee the country with $500,000 in cash?" Jessica did not answer. She just looked at the table. The detective continued. "We have evidence. Jessica, messages, photos, bank transfers. We know about Henry. We know about Sarah. We know about Matthew. Everything." Hearing Matthew's name, Jessica looked up. There was something in her eyes, something dark. "You don't know anything," she said with a cold voice. "You can't prove anything." The detective smiled. It was a humorless smile. "Oh no, We have the phone you hid in Lily's blanket, the same one you threw in the trash thinking no one would find it. We have the messages where you plan to murder your husband. We have the transfers to Henry Walker. Jessica turned pale. That phone. How? She stopped. She realized she had said too much. The detective leaned forward. Your mother-in-law found it. Martha, the woman from whom you snatched her son. The woman who is now going to stay with Lily while you rot in prison. Jessica's expression changed, from panic to fury. That meddling old woman. I knew I should not have let her near the girl. I knew she was snooping. That is why I wanted to leave. That is why I needed to disappear before it was too late. Disappear? Like you disappeared Sarah Miller? The name dropped like a bomb. Jessica fell silent, her breathing accelerated. I don't know who you are talking about. The detective took out a photo. He put it on the table. It was Sarah, young, smiling, alive. Sarah Miller, Lily's real mother, the girl who disappeared 4 years ago, the same one we found dead in a lot that belongs to the company where your accomplice Henry worked. Jessica closed her eyes. I want a lawyer. I'm not going to say anything else. The detective leaned back. As you wish, but this is not going to go away. We have enough to convict you for double homicide, for fraud, for forgery of documents. You are going to spend the rest of your life in prison. The recording ended. Detective Davis looked at me. She still won't confess, but she will. The evidence is overwhelming. What is going to happen to Henry? I asked. We arrested him too. He is in another room, and he is talking. He is blaming Jessica for everything. He says she manipulated him, that he just followed orders, that he was afraid of her. I was not surprised. Cowards always seek to save themselves. Tell me what else Henry said. The detective opened his notebook. According to Henry, Jessica contacted him 4 years ago. They were having an affair. She told him she was tired of her marriage, that Matthew was boring, controlling, that she wanted a different life. She proposed the plan. Wait until Matthew was alone at home. Push him down the stairs. Make it look like an accident. In exchange, they would share the life insurance money. My stomach churned. Hearing how they had planned my son's death was unbearable. Henry says at first he refused, but Jessica convinced him. She showed him the insurance papers. $500,000. She promised him $200,000 and a life together after it was all over. Brenda, who had been silent, spoke. And what about Sarah? What did Henry say about her? The detective turned a page. That is where the story gets darker. According to Henry, Jessica met Sarah at the hospital where she worked. Sarah was a patient. She had arrived due to complications in her pregnancy. She was alone, no family, no resources. Jessica saw an opportunity. She befriended Sarah, offered her help, told her she could stay at her house after the baby was born. Sarah accepted. She had no one else. My hands were trembling. Jessica planned everything from the beginning. She wanted to keep the baby. The detective nodded. Exactly. According to Henry, Jessica lied to Matthew. She told him she was pregnant, wore loose clothes, faked symptoms. Matthew never suspected. When Sarah gave birth, Jessica took the baby. She told Matthew she had been born at home, that everything had been very fast. And Sarah? What happened to her? My voice was trembling. The detective took a deep breath. Henry says Jessica gave her something, a drug, so Sarah could not resist. She took her to the lot where they later found her body and killed her. Same method as with Matthew, head trauma. Tears ran down my face. Jessica was not just a murderer. She was a monster. She had killed a helpless girl. She had stolen her baby, and then she had killed my son to keep his money. And Lily's father, the real father. According to the records we found, Sarah never registered the father, or she did not know him, or she did not want to involve him. We are investigating, but for now there is no trace of him. I wiped my tears. I want to see Lily. Please." The detective took me to another wing of the building. There was a waiting room with toys. A woman from social services was there, and in a corner, playing with some colored blocks, was my granddaughter. "Lily," I whispered. She looked up. She saw me, and she ran towards me. "Grandma!" I took her in my arms. I squeezed her against my chest. She clung to me. She was scared, confused, but she was safe. "I am here, my love. Everything is going to be okay." The woman from social services approached. "Mrs. Martha, I am Mary. I work with the Department of Minors." Detective Davis explained the situation to me. "We are going to need to do an evaluation before letting Lily go with you, but everything indicates it is what is best for the girl." "I will do whatever is necessary," I said. "I just want to take care of her, protect her." Mary smiled warmly. "I know, and I see that she loves you. That is important." I spent the next hours with Lily. We talked. I told her she would stay with me for a while. I did not tell her about Jessica, not yet. She was too little to understand. Later, I would explain everything, when she was older, when she could process the truth. For now, she just needed to feel loved and safe. Mary did the evaluations. She checked my house. She talked to me about my capabilities to care for a 3-year-old girl. She asked questions about my health, my finances, my support network. Brenda was there the whole time, as a witness, as support. At the end of the day, Mary gave her approval. "Lily can stay with you temporarily. There will be follow-up visits, and eventually a hearing to determine permanent custody. But for now, you are her legal guardian." I signed all the necessary papers. I took Lily by the hand, and we left that building. Brenda drove us home in her car. During the whole ride, Lily fell asleep in my lap. Her breathing was soft, calm. When we arrived at my house, I took her to my room. I laid her on my bed. I covered her with a soft blanket. I sat beside her. I watched her sleep. She looked so much like Matthew, those same eyes, that same nose. Even though she did not share his blood, she was his daughter in everything that mattered. "I promise I am going to protect you," I whispered to her. "No one is ever going to hurt you again. Your dad would have wanted you to be safe, and I am going to make sure that happens." Brenda entered the room. She put a hand on my shoulder. "You did it, Martha. You saved that girl." I shook my head. "No, I only did what any grandmother would do, what I should have done from the beginning." Brenda sat beside me. "Do not blame yourself. You could not know what Jessica was capable of doing. Maybe she was right, but the guilt still ate at me. If I had been more attentive, if I had questioned more things, if I had not trusted so much, maybe Matthew would still be alive. Maybe Sarah, too." "What is going to happen now?" asked Brenda. "Detective Davis is going to keep building the case. There will be trials, testimonies. It is going to be a long process, but Jessica is going to pay for what she did, and Henry, too." Brenda nodded. "Good. They deserve it." The following months were a whirlwind. The case of Jessica and Henry became a media sensation. The newspapers talked about the killer nurse, the woman who had killed her husband and the biological mother of her daughter for money. Cameras camped in front of the station every time there was a hearing. I tried to keep Lily away from all that. I enrolled her in a preschool. I bought her new clothes, toys. I fixed up a room for her in my house. I painted the walls a soft yellow. I filled the room with stuffed animals and books. I wanted her to feel at home, to forget the horror she had lived. But the nights were difficult. Lily had nightmares. She woke up crying, calling for her mom, and I did not know what to tell her. I could not tell her that her mom was in prison, that her mom had killed her dad, that her mom was not really her mom. I just hugged her. I sang songs to her. I told her she was safe, that I would always take care of her. Little by little, the nightmares became less frequent. Lily started smiling more, playing, being a normal child. That gave me hope. Detective Davis kept me informed about the case. Henry had accepted a deal with the prosecution. He would testify against Jessica in exchange for a reduced sentence, 25 years instead of life imprisonment. It infuriated me that he received clemency, but I understood that his testimony was crucial. Jessica, on the other hand, refused to plead guilty. Her lawyer argued that all the evidence was circumstantial, that there was no direct proof that she had committed the murders, that Henry was lying to save his own skin. But the prosecution had a solid case. The phone with the messages, the photos, the videos, the bank transfers, Henry's testimony, the forensic evidence from Matthew's second autopsy, everything pointed to Jessica. The trial was scheduled for 3 months later. One afternoon, while Lily was taking her nap, I received an unexpected call. It was Detective Davis. "Mrs. Martha, I need you to come to the station. There is something you must see." His voice sounded serious, more serious than usual. "What happened?" I asked with my heart racing. "I prefer to explain it to you in person. Can you come this afternoon?" I accepted. I asked Brenda to watch Lily, and I went to the station. The detective was waiting for me in his office. He had a folder on his desk. "Sit down, please." I sat. He opened the folder. He took out some photos. They were images of crime scenes. One was of the lot where they found Sarah. Another was of the stairs where Matthew died. "Remember I told you we were investigating Lily's biological father?" I nodded. "Yes." "You said there was no record." The detective nodded. "Correct. Sarah never put the father's name on the birth certificate, but we kept investigating. We talked to former co-workers of Sarah, friends, neighbors, and we found something interesting. Several witnesses mentioned that Sarah was dating someone, a man who worked at the hospital, the same hospital where Matthew and Jessica worked." My stomach contracted. "Who was it?" The detective took out another photo. It was a hospital ID image, a man of about 30, dark hair, light eyes, and then I saw it, the resemblance. It was unsettling. "That man," said the detective, "was named Adam West. He was a lab technician, and according to several testimonies, he and Sarah had a relationship." "Where is he now?" I asked. The detective looked down. "He died 3.5 years ago. 6 months after Sarah's disappearance." I felt a chill. "How did he die?" The detective looked directly at me. "Car accident. He lost control of his car on a highway, fell down a ravine, died instantly." "Another accident," I whispered. The detective nodded. "Exactly. And guess who reported the accident? Who was the first to arrive at the scene?" I did not need him to tell me. I already knew. "Jessica." The detective put another photo on the table. Jessica was on duty that night. She said she was on her way home when she saw Adam's car go off the road. She called emergency services, but when they arrived, Adam was already dead. "We think she killed him too." The detective took a deep breath. "We do not have proof. The case was closed as an accident. But now, with everything we know, we are reopening the investigation. There are too many coincidences. First Sarah disappears, then Adam dies, then Matthew dies, all connected in some way, all dead in circumstances that Jessica could have manipulated." My hands were trembling. How many people did she kill? How many lives did she destroy? The detective closed the folder. "I do not know yet, but we are going to find out. I am going to review every case, every suspicious death connected to Jessica in the last 5 years. If there are more victims, we are going to find them." I left the station in a state of shock. Jessica was not just a murderer. She was a serial killer, meticulous, calculating. She had eliminated anyone who stood in her way. Sarah because she had the baby she wanted. Adam because he was that baby's father and could claim her. Matthew because he had the money she needed. I went back home. Brenda was waiting for me in the living room. "What happened? You look pale." I told her everything. About Adam. About the possibility of more victims. Brenda brought her hands to her mouth. My God, it is worse than we thought. That night, I could not sleep. I stayed awake thinking about all of Jessica's victims, about Sarah, about Adam, about Matthew. How many other people had been her victims? How much pain had she caused? And how had I been so blind, so close to her for years, without seeing who she really was? The next morning, Detective Davis appeared at my house without warning. He brought more news. We found something else. We reviewed the medical records of the hospital where Jessica worked. There were 3 suspicious deaths of patients under her care in the last 4 years. All were elderly. All died of cardiac arrest. At that time, nothing was suspected. It was attributed to age complications. But now we are exhuming the bodies, looking for traces of medications that could have induced the arrests. I felt dizzy. You are saying Jessica killed her own patients? The detective nodded. It is a possibility. If the analyses confirm they were poisoned, then we would be talking about at least 6 victims, possibly more. Why would she do it? What did she gain by killing those elderly people? The detective took out another folder. Money. It was always for money. 2 of those patients modified their wills shortly before dying. They left significant donations to the hospital. Jessica had been very kind to them, very attentive. She gained their trust. And then, mysteriously, the money from those donations disappeared. It never reached the hospital. It was diverted to ghost bank accounts. We are tracking those accounts, and they all have a connection to Jessica or Henry. I could not believe what I was hearing. Jessica had built a criminal empire. She had killed, stolen, lied, and all with a perfect smile and elegant dresses. No one had suspected. No one until I found that phone. There is something else, said the detective. Henry is cooperating more than expected. He says Jessica has hidden documents, evidence she kept as insurance. In case Henry ever betrayed her, she wanted to have something to threaten him with. What kind of documents? The detective leaned forward. Bank records, contracts, even videos. Henry says Jessica recorded him helping her with Matthew's murder, that she has those recordings hidden somewhere. Where? The detective shook his head. Henry says he does not know, that Jessica never told him, but he thinks they could be in her house, in some hiding place only she knows. My mind was working fast. We need those documents. If they exist, they could seal the case against her. The detective nodded. We already have a search warrant. We are going to check the house from top to bottom, every corner, every wall, until we find what we are looking for. That afternoon, a team of police officers entered Jessica's house. I accompanied them. I wanted to be there. I wanted to see how they dismantled her perfect life piece by piece. They checked everything, the drawers, the closets. They lifted rugs, hit walls looking for hidden compartments. And after 4 hours, one of the officers shouted from the basement, "I found something." We ran down. The officer had moved an old bookshelf. Behind it was a safe embedded in the wall, small, discreet. "We need to open it," said the detective. They brought a specialist. He opened the safe in 20 minutes, and inside we found a treasure trove of evidence. There were external hard drives, USB drives, folders with documents, printed photos. Everything was meticulously organized, every file labeled, every document in its place. It was Jessica's personal archive, her record of crimes. "It is as if she wanted to remember everything," said the detective while reviewing the documents, as if she were proud of what she had done. Among the files were videos of Jessica and Henry planning Matthew's murder, videos of Jessica confessing everything to the camera, as if she were documenting her crimes for posterity. In one of the videos, Jessica spoke directly to the camera. Her voice was cold, devoid of emotion. If someone is watching this, it means I made a mistake, that they caught me. But I want you to know I regret nothing. I did what I had to do. I eliminated obstacles. I took what I deserved. Matthew was weak. Sarah was a means to an end. Adam was a risk. The elderly were opportunities. I feel no remorse. I just did what no one else had the courage to do. The video ended. The detective turned off the screen. With this, your case is closed. She is going to spend the rest of her life in prison. The trial began 2 months later. The courtroom was full. Journalists, curious onlookers, relatives of the victims Jessica had left in her wake. I was in the front row. I wanted to look her in the eyes. I wanted her to know she had not won, that the truth had come to light. Jessica entered handcuffed. She was wearing a dark gray suit, her hair pulled back. No makeup. She looked different, smaller, more real. She was no longer the perfect woman everyone knew. She was just a criminal facing the consequences of her actions. Our gazes met. For a second, I saw something in her eyes. It was not regret. It was rage. Rage because they had caught her, because her perfect plan had collapsed. She looked away. She sat next to her lawyer, and the trial began. The prosecutor was a 40-year-old woman, firm, direct. She presented the case with precision. She showed the photos, the messages from the phone, the videos from the safe, the forensic testimonies. Every piece of evidence was like a nail in Jessica's coffin, Henry testified. He entered the room in shackles. He looked finished, haggard. He started speaking with a trembling voice. He told how Jessica had seduced him, how she had proposed the plan, how between the two of them they had waited for Matthew to be alone. I held his arms, confessed Henry. Jessica pushed him. I saw him fall down the stairs. I heard the blow of his head against the floor, and I did nothing. I just stood there while she called emergency services, faking panic. Tears ran down my face. Hearing the details of my son's death was heartbreaking, but I needed to hear it. I needed to know exactly what they had done to him. Henry continued speaking. He told about Sarah, about how Jessica had asked him for help to get rid of her. Jessica gave her something, a drug. Sarah became unconscious. I took her to the lot. Jessica hit her head with a rock. Then we buried her. It all took less than an hour. The courtroom was in complete silence. Only the sound of collective breathing was heard. People were horrified. Henry also talked about Adam. Jessica followed him that night, waited for him to reach the lonely road. She rammed him with her own car, pushed him off the road, then reported the accident as if it had just happened. No one suspected. Jessica's lawyer tried to discredit Henry. "You are lying to reduce your sentence. You are blaming my client for everything to save yourself." But Henry did not retract. "I am not lying. I have to live with this the rest of my life. The least I can do is tell the truth." Then came the forensic experts. They explained the results of the autopsies, the marks on Matthew's wrists, the type of trauma Sarah suffered, the medications found in the bodies of the elderly at the hospital. Everything confirmed Henry's version. Then former co-workers testified, patients who had survived, neighbors who had seen strange things. Every testimony added another layer to the story, another proof of Jessica's evil. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Finally, the moment for closing arguments arrived. The prosecutor stood in front of the jury. Jessica is not a person who made a mistake. She is not someone who acted on impulse. She is a predator, calculating, cold. She killed at least 6 people, maybe more, and she did it without remorse. She destroyed families, ruined lives, stole a baby from her real mother, murdered her own husband, and all for money, for ambition, because she believed she deserved more than she had. She does not deserve compassion. She deserves justice. She deserves to spend the rest of her life paying for what she did. Jessica's lawyer tried to create doubt. The evidence is circumstantial. My client has been the victim of a campaign against her. Henry Walker is the real culprit. He is using Jessica as a scapegoat. You cannot convict someone based on the words of a confessed criminal. But it did not work. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the tension in the room was palpable. The judge asked for the verdict. The jury foreman stood up. In the case of the murder of Matthew Thompson, we find the defendant guilty. In the case of the murder of Sarah Miller, we find the defendant guilty. In the case of the murder of Adam West, we find the defendant guilty. In the cases of the 3 elderly hospital patients, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty on all counts. I looked at Jessica. Her face showed no emotion. She did not cry. She did not scream. She just sat there, as if none of this mattered to her, as if she had accepted her fate long ago. The judge spoke. Jessica Sanchez has been found guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder. I sentence her to 6 consecutive life sentences, without possibility of parole. The room erupted in murmurs. I could only close my eyes. It was the end. Jessica would never leave prison. She would never hurt anyone again. Justice had been served. But I felt no joy, only a deep void, because none of this would bring Matthew back. After the trial, Detective Davis approached. "Justice," he said simply. I nodded. Yes, but at what cost? He put a hand on my shoulder. "You saved Lily. That is what is important. You gave her a chance to have a normal life, a life without lies." He was right. Lily was the important thing now. She was my reason to keep going. I went back home. Brenda was waiting for me with Lily. My granddaughter was playing with her dolls. When she saw me, she ran towards me. "Grandma, where were you?" "I had to do something important, my love, but I am finished. Now I am here with you." I hugged her tight. She smelled of cookies and happiness. It was all I needed. The following days were quieter. The media circus began to fade. People found other stories to tell. I concentrated on Lily, on giving her the childhood she deserved. I took her to the park. We read stories before sleeping. We baked cookies together. Little by little, she started calling me Mom. At first it surprised me. Then I realized it was natural. I was the only mother figure she had now. "Is it okay if I call you Mom?" she asked me one night. She was 4 years old already. She was lying in her bed. I was stroking her hair. "Of course, my love. You can call me whatever makes you feel comfortable." She smiled. "Mom, Grandma." I laughed. "Mom, Grandma." She nodded. "Because you are my grandma, but you are also like my mom." My heart melted. "I like it. Mom, Grandma, it sounds perfect." I kissed her forehead. "Now sleep. Tomorrow we will go to the zoo." Months passed. They turned into years. Lily grew. She started elementary school, made friends, learned to read, to write. She was a brilliant girl, full of life. Sometimes I saw Matthew in her gestures, in her smile, and that gave me peace. Brenda remained my confidant, my support. We had dinner together every week. We talked about everything, about Lily, about life, about how we had survived all that. "You are stronger than you thought," she told me. "You saved that girl. You gave her a future." One day, when Lily was 7 years old, she asked me a question I feared. "Mom, Grandma, where is my other mom, the one who had me in her tummy?" I took a deep breath. I knew this moment would come. I had prepared what to say. "Your mom was named Sarah. She was a very brave woman. She loved you very much. Why is she not here?" Lily looked at me with those innocent eyes. "Because she had to go to heaven. But before leaving, she asked me to take care of you, to give you all the love she could not give you." It was not entirely a lie. In my heart, I believe Sarah would have wanted me to care for her daughter. And my dad? Another difficult question. "Your dad is also in heaven. His name was Matthew. He was my son, and he would have loved you with all his heart." Lily thought for a moment. "Then you are my real grandma, from my dad." I nodded. "Yes, my love. I am your real grandma." She smiled. "I like it, because then we are connected, by the heart. I hugged her. Exactly. By the heart. I decided not to tell her about Jessica. Not yet. Maybe when she was older, when she could understand. Years later, when Lily turned 16, I told her the whole truth. She deserved it. We cried together. She asked questions, processed the information. It was difficult, but in the end, she told me something I will never forget. Thank you for saving me, for giving me a life. You saved me too, I replied. You gave me a reason to keep going after losing your dad. We hugged, and I knew we had healed together, that despite all the pain, all the darkness, we had found light. The blanket that had caused everything was still kept in my closet. I had washed it, repaired it. Sometimes I took it out, looked at it, remembered how a small object had uncovered so many secrets, how it had been the catalyst to discover the truth. Today, Lily is 21 years old. She studies medicine at the university. She wants to be a pediatrician. She says she wants to help children like her, children who have gone through difficult situations, who need someone who understands them. I am so proud of the woman she has become. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had not seen Jessica throwing that blanket into the trash, if I had not rescued it, if I had not found the phone. Jessica would still be free. Maybe she would have killed more people. Lily would be growing up under the care of a murderer. But destiny had other plans. That October afternoon, 18 years ago, something compelled me to act, something bigger than me. Maybe it was Matthew, maybe it was Sarah, guiding me from wherever they were, making sure their daughter was safe. Brenda is still my best friend. She is now 83. I am 87. We meet every afternoon to have tea. We talk about old times, about how we survived that nightmare, about how we built a new life after the horror. Do you ever think about her? Brenda asked me one afternoon. I knew who she meant. Jessica. Sometimes, I admitted, I wonder if she ever felt anything, any remorse, any guilt. Brenda shook her head. People like her do not feel. They only calculate. They only take. She was right. Jessica had never shown regret, not even in prison. According to what Detective Davis told me years ago, she kept insisting she had done nothing wrong, that she had only taken what belonged to her, that the world owed her more than it had given her. Henry, on the other hand, did show remorse. He wrote letters asking for forgiveness to the victims' families, to me. I never replied. I could not forgive someone who had helped kill my son, but at least he had the decency to admit his guilt, to try to atone for his sins. He died in prison 5 years ago, a heart attack. He was barely 53. When I found out, I felt nothing, neither relief nor sadness, only indifference. He was a closed chapter of a story I preferred to forget. Jessica is still alive, serving her 6 life sentences in a maximum security prison. Lily asked me once if I wanted to visit her, to see the woman who had killed her father, who had stolen her childhood. I refused flatly. I do not need to see her. I do not need her explanation. The only thing I need is to know she is where she belongs, paying for what she did. Lily respected my decision. She also had no interest in meeting Jessica. For her, that woman was a ghost from the past, someone who existed only in stories, in warnings about what human evil is capable of doing. Her real family was me. It was Brenda. It was the friends she had made, the people who loved her for real. A few months ago, Lily brought me something, a gift, wrapped in lavender paper. "Open it," she told me with a smile. I unwrapped the package carefully. Inside was a blanket, new, hand-knitted, mint green color, exactly like the one I had made so many years ago. "I made it," said Lily. "I learned to knit. I wanted to recreate the blanket that united us, the one that saved my life." Tears ran down my cheeks. I hugged her tight. "It is perfect. It is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me." That night, I spread the new blanket on my bed. Next to it, I took the old blanket out of the closet. the one I had kept all these years. I compared them. They were almost identical, but this new one had no hidden secrets. It had no pain sewn into its fibers. It only had love, pure love from a granddaughter to her grandmother. "You know," Lily told me while we were having dinner, "I have been thinking about Sarah, about my biological mom. I would have liked to meet her." I took her hand. "Me too. From what I knew, she was a good person, brave, strong. She was alone and scared, but she loved her baby. She loved you." "Do you think she would be proud of me?" asked Lily with a trembling voice. "I am sure," I replied without hesitation. "She would be extremely proud of the woman you are, of your achievements, of your kind heart. I think from wherever she is, she watches over you, protects you, just like your dad, Matthew." Lily smiled through tears. "And you, Mom, Grandma, are you proud of me?" I looked into her eyes, those eyes that reminded me so much of my son. "More than proud, you are the reason I am still here, the reason why every day is worth it. You saved me as much as I saved you." That night, before sleeping, I held both blankets, the old and the new. I thought about the entire journey, about the pain, about the losses, about the secrets I had discovered, about the justice I had achieved, and about the love I had found in the midst of darkness. The old blanket had been my guide, my map to the truth. It had contained the secret that unmasked a monster, that saved an innocent girl, that brought justice for the dead. It was more than a simple blanket. It was a symbol of truth, of resistance, of maternal love. And now, the new blanket represented the future, a future without lies, without pain, without dark secrets. It was the promise that Lily would have the life she deserved, full of love, of opportunities, of hope. 2 blankets, 2 stories, 1 single family. I got out of bed. I went to Lily's room. She was asleep, breathing softly. I approached. I smoothed her hair. I kissed her forehead. "I love you, my girl, my reason for living." She whispered something in her sleep. I did not understand what, but she was smiling. That was enough. I went back to my room. I lay down, closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I had no nightmares. I did not dream of Jessica, nor of Matthew falling down the stairs, nor of Sarah screaming. I dreamed of peace, of a garden full of flowers, of Lily laughing, of the future. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was coming through my window. Lily was already awake, making breakfast. It smelled of coffee and toast. "Good morning, Mom, Grandma," she greeted me. "Good morning, my love." I sat at the table. I watched how she moved through the kitchen, so full of life, so strong, so different from the scared little girl I had rescued years ago. She had grown. She had become someone incredible. And I had had the privilege of seeing it, of being part of her story, of helping her write a different ending than the one Jessica had planned. "What are you thinking about?" Lily asked me while pouring coffee. I smiled about how lucky I am to have you, to have found that blanket that day. Lily sat in front of me. I think about that too, how such a simple object changed everything, saved my life. "It was not the blanket," I told her. "It was you, your existence, the love your dad felt for you. That was what gave me the strength to seek the truth, to not give up." We had breakfast together. We talked about her plans, about the university, about her dreams, and I felt that Matthew was there with us, proud, happy. That afternoon, I decided to do something I had postponed for years. I went to the cemetery, to Matthew's and Sarah's graves. They were in different sections, but I visited both. I brought flowers, lilacs for Matthew, white roses for Sarah. I knelt in front of my son's grave. "Hi, my love. Lily is okay. She is growing up beautiful, strong, smart. I know you would be proud of her. I am doing my best, trying to be for her what you would have been. I miss you every day, but I keep going. For her, for you. Then I went to Sarah's grave. It was simpler. Fewer flowers, fewer visitors. Hi, Sarah. We did not meet, but I take care of your daughter. I love her as if she were mine. She is wonderful. She inherited your strength, your courage. I want you to know she is safe, that she is happy, that she will never lack love. The wind blew softly, moved the leaves of the nearby trees. I felt a strange peace, as if both were thanking me, as if they knew I had kept my promise, that I had protected Lily, that I had given her the life she deserved. I returned home when the sun began to set. Lily was waiting for me with dinner ready. We ate together, laughed, told stories. And when bedtime came, I went to my room. I took the new blanket, the one Lily had given me. I wrapped myself in it. And as I closed my eyes, I thought about everything that simple blanket represented. The old one had kept secrets, had exposed lies, had brought justice. The new one held promises, hopes, unconditional love. Both were part of our story, of our journey. And as I looked at the stars through my window, I understood something deep. That water never forgets. That secrets always find a way out. That the truth, although painful, is always better than the lie. And that love, true love, survives any darkness. The blanket had been the beginning, but Lily was the end, the happy ending that none of us expected, the miracle that was born from tragedy. And as I fell asleep, I whispered one last prayer for Matthew, for Sarah, for Adam, for all of Jessica's victims. Rest in peace. Your sacrifice was not in vain. Lily lives, Lily thrives, and that is all that matters.